It's all about the CEO of the Year Award 2025, of course. And in this episode of one of the four nominees, it's Matthijs from Vitens. Looking forward. Well, good to see you again in another edition of CEO TV. And actually a very special edition, one of the four, a series of four episodes regarding the CIO of the Year Award. Yep, it's that time of the year again. We are going to CEO Day again in November, and that means CEO of the Year Award. And four nominees means one nominee on the bench today, and that's Matthijs, and he is from Vitens. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I don't think you're nervous, but we will see later on because we got provoking questions. We will do our utmost to find out where you are, of course.
Looking forward.
We are doing that with a whole bunch of senior tech leaders, so to speak. And let me introduce to you in this case, Ronald, and he's heading up as director the CEO Platform Netherlands Association. Welcome, Ronald.
Thank you. Hi.
And we got, and I need to say it well, Simon. And Simon is from Savient.
Savient's good.
Savient is good. Welcome, Simon. And of course, good old Ragnar from PwC, so to speak. Good to have you here. We're going to talk about the first element of this conversation, Matthijs, is about your, let's say your dynamics within your role versus the fact how do you operate with Vitens and where you're going to, where you need to go to, what are your dilemmas. So let's start with the dynamics of your daily business.
Yeah. So nice to be here and talk about drinking water. Because Vitens, of course, is not an IT company. The core of what we do is provide clean and healthy drinking water. And in that dynamics, IT is serving, but also is of essential, plays an essential role in providing this service. Drinking water. In a country like the Netherlands, you would assume there is a lot of water, but the population is growing and the climate is changing, so there is actually shortage coming up, and that gives quite a dynamic in what we have to do for the future and build new assets. Digitization is helping with that, and at the same time, in the here and now, Vitens is a vital sector. And drinking water is one of the areas that's under attack of our adversaries, and we have to protect. So it's sort of trying to innovate, make sure that we can build for the future, and at the same time protect what is dear right now. And that dynamic and combining that, well, welcome to my role then.
Well, that's not an easy one, but I assume that besides the fact that we need batteries and candles and toilet paper, so now you have a serious message, we have a shortage of water coming up.
Yeah, so there are parts in the Netherlands that are drier than other parts.
Right.
And especially those parts, mainly in the east and up north, where a lot of population growth is happening, where new homes are being built, and people with a new home, they like to shower. So we have to bring some water there, which isn't there. So major projects are underway to transport water from the places where there is more, like in the Veluwe, and transport it all the way to Enschede.
Right. I got it. So, Ronald, if I take this sample, well, perhaps a new sense of urgency there coming up. How do you see all those changes within your members within the CEO platform?
Well, I think one of the issues today, one of the main topics is how to realign the dynamics in the geopolitical sphere with your business continuity assessments and where you need to take steps to figure out how to perhaps prepare for situations that have up till now not been very thinkable, but are becoming plausible. And that makes it difficult in some cases to reframe or refocus your attention, and that not only of the IT sphere but also the whole business, because this has impact on a lot of decisions within any company or organization for this new world, where nobody knows the exact specific outcomes that will be reached, but that you do need to prepare for, and those are difficult discussions because it's not concrete in any situations, and it is and it is also dependent on the scenario that you're working out or working against, what the best option would be.
Right.
So in one scenario, it could be very helpful to get all your data into a cloud, and in another scenario, that would be the worst option to have your data in.
Yep.
And how do you balance those?
Right. And I can imagine, Ragnar, that if you could give us a glimpse there in the discussions you have with your customers in regards to the dilemma is, on the one hand, the growth. Everybody's striving for that growth, getting that business outcome, versus that resilience question also, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you looked at now, is that I assume that critical infrastructure versus innovation is a dilemma in the end, right?
Yeah, but I think especially as Matthijs is saying, where a utilities or a commodity is no longer a given, no longer a certainty, you need to start rethinking your purpose and your delivery of, in this case, your services, which is quite interesting. We had a talk prior to this episode by saying the actual aim is to use more conscious the water that we currently have in the Netherlands, which is selling less almost than selling more, which is a different mindset if you're in a private sector, of course. But that is where I think digitization can actually help, like we have seen on other utilities like electricity, gas, et cetera, et cetera. So balancing those both is, I think, a huge challenge where tech can help tremendously.
Yeah, your vision on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got, because you've got the enablement piece, which is that whole, how do you leverage tech? And you can't, I mean, you said it, I mean, every business is fundamentally a tech business now, but I think for a lot of organizations, particularly, you know, maybe some of the critical infrastructure ones, like the rate of change, you talked about the geopolitical risk and challenge and unknown. I think it's the rate of change as well in terms of how are you going to leverage that tech? What does that even look like in 2 years' time that's generating even more, I think, uncertainty potentially, you know, without even talking about the security of that thing, just what is it that you're going to need to invest in to enable you to achieve some of those objectives in the short term, really, now, like 1-2 years?
Right. That's a good point. So let's first go to a Moody of Vitens.
In die zin zie je ook dat water steeds digitaler wordt. En dus dat gaat om de beschikbaarheid en vertrouwelijkheid en integriteit. Bij ons zijn dat de hoogste eisen. Ja, ik zeg ook altijd, kijk, nu is het data en straks is het drinkwater voor ons, voor onze kinderen en de generaties daarna. Ja, dat is toch ook werk waarmee wat te winnen valt, toch?
Normally you would say, that gives a good glimpse, better than 1,000 words, but it strikes me in the context of huge urgency, right?
It is.
So what does it mean in your role, Matthijs?
On the one hand, urgent, and on the other hand, you also have to be calm and make the right decision. In a utility, you can play the long game because there is no competition. On the other hand, you can't use time because time is not on your advantage. So you have to squeeze in the middle. So for instance, on the vital parts like production, you can't make any mistake. Everything has to be on-premise. All the data is completely autonomous. We have all our equipment in our hands. That part of the data can be used for innovation. But you have to transport that data then to a system where you can manipulate, because on the vital parts we stay safe. So you can segment all your actions into a part that is completely critical and a part that has more flexibility. Mm-hmm. Now, many companies wrestle, especially on the latter part, with doing cool stuff fast, and don't take the time of a complete back-end replacement. It's expensive, it takes time, and before you know it, your job finished and the project isn't. In our case, we took the time, we did it. It took 7 years, but the whole of Vitens has been rebuilt from the ground up process-wise and implemented in a new SAP S/4HANA system. Once you do that, you can innovate on these business processes way faster and have DevOps teams built and launched from that platform. And that's actually what we've done. We've taken the time to do the fundamentals right and really protect. Since 2017, when the law was implemented, WBNI, we really took the time to have the security part for our essential part and got that right. We took the less essential but important part of our business steering right. And now we see that, for instance, by talking to our customers on how can you minimize your drinking water waste, because if you drink water, it's okay. It's better than having soda or whatever. It's even healthier. But if you take a very long shower, after a minute or 5, you're clean, right? And if you spray the garden, why would you? So that kind of communication can be done with, for instance, innovations we do with smart meters and make awareness. On the other hand, as I told, we wrestle with what a lot of utility companies have, and that is getting new physical assets in the ground while the Netherlands is completely full. And you have to talk to all of the local authorities and the constructors that have to do it. They can also choose to have a construction job in the energy transition or what have you. So there's shortage all around. And their innovation is not only about us, Vitens, it's also about cooperating with all of the other parties outside. And that's what we currently do. Share the data, make combined plans, and once a street is open, for instance, you would see that all the business processes of the parties that could put something in are interconnected and combine a project and have make use of each other's resources in that sense. So that's what we do more and more.
But is that something what you see happening, Ragnar? We had a fair discussion in the last years. Is that the market pool is becoming more interesting than the tech push for years? But we're now also coming into the discussion of co-creation in the terms of from the demand perspective, right? Is it a kind of innovation that's existing or is going to grow or is needed, perhaps, to get this kind of answers?
I think the term ecosystems came up already a couple of years ago, which is still, I think, a valid model. I think what we are seeing is not about using the most technology that you have at your hand, but using it at the right speed of where your organization is adopting the change. A while back we talked about bimodal, and I think Matthijs is actually saying something about, we call it now explorative versus expedition. You went on an expedition to do S4, which is a longitude in range and planning, and on top of that you start putting almost explorative initiatives that have more pace, where you start sharing data, looking for outside-in collaborations. And I think that is a mix that we see quite often. Having your data is almost as important having the trust in the system to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I see some developments, Simon, also going in that the change is going from a focus on infra to a focus on data, right? So what does that mean in these type of discussion then?
It starts to introduce, I think, some new areas of focus because, I think we've heard data 2 or 3 times. Data is the lifeblood of any organization when you think about the technology part of it. And in that ecosystem where there's a lot of collaboration, immediately we kind of start to think about how do you make sure as you're enabling, you're also honestly like securing, because it's data. Data can now exist potentially anywhere. So how do you make sure that you understand what part are you playing? Because in a collaboration model, you need to make sure that you play your part, you're doing the right thing from a technology perspective, but also from a securing the data perspective. But how well do you understand that ecosystem and the risk?
Yep.
It's a big dynamic change, I think, when you think about that interaction.
And if you put that in conjunction with the fact that you wear 2 hats, besides CEO, also CISO, right? We could debate about, do you have then a dilemma, growth versus resilience? So I don't know. If Tjeerd asks you that question, can we go faster? Yes, no, but...
We solved that by making sure that in those 2 roles, the first role, CIO, is a first-line role, and the second one is a second-line role, that the tension is organized below me, but also above me. So I report into the CFO for my first-line job and into the CEO, because it's really chefsache, for my second-line job. And that's how we make sure that if there is a discussion and a tension with it, I can leave it at that table.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good play. Do you see that shift coming on in also within in the full stack of the members within CEO Platform Netherlands? We have this current debate constantly about growth versus resilience, right? And resilience in the scale of not only cybersecurity but also risk and liability.
Yeah, I think that comes with the previous remark I made, where a lot of the attention is going, and I think for a lot of board, it's becoming more of a question that they are starting to embrace the fact that data is that important, and they have to make decisions about how we go about data. The resiliency of the organization is also something that not only they see, but increasingly, especially in vital sectors, due to legislation, they have a role to play, and they cannot just dilute their own role. So they are the ones that have to answer the question, so they have to be on the ball. So I think the CIO, the CISO, whatever they may be, they are at advisory to the decision making at the board level, and of course they need to be fed also from lower level experts that are much more into the operational details of that. So I think that both the CIO and CISO roles are coming to be in that place, and depending on the organization, they have the specifics of who's doing what of those jobs.
Right.
And think, Rob, maybe because we're it's of course secure, but it's also trusted. And that is, I think, where your first and second line comes together quite nicely, I think. Because secure data, but the wrong data. So I'm pulling over the street to start looking for something and it's not there. Or having data that I can no longer trust because it's not for me to actually own and manage. That's the second aspect of it, of being secure as well, of course.
And I do think there's a bit of a change in the dynamic, because I understand the way that you've set up your roles and the controls, but more and more I hear, the expectation of the CISO is enablement, not restriction, to your point. Like that's changing massively the dynamic. I think that's interesting then to see where do the controls still live, because that's important, but how do those things, I think, converge over time?
That's why we have an equivalent also as CISO of the year, right? But in this case, it's about the CIO of the year, right? So let us go to give you a little glimpse, because we had, after 20 years, we got that same discussion about black box. Okay. Besides the fact that you can find anything on the website, but and stay with me here, I guess, Ronald, as being the director of the CEO Platform Netherlands. So we have a full jury, including the chairman of the CEO Platform Netherlands is also the chairman of the CEO of the Year Award. So bring it home, back home, so to speak. But also the academic view, also the previous winner, like Art Rupert van Damme. We do all kinds of assessments, like digital maturity assessments, AI maturity assessment, personal assessments. We even phone Tjeerd, your boss, so to speak, to know really is Matthijs a good guy or not, right? Even that we do. You have to go to a jury to do a jury meeting. You have to go to do the pitch in the end of the day. So yeah, there's a lot to do. So it's a big process of a lot of elements to really understand who's the best CEO of the year. And mainly because we don't want a Peppy or Cocky award, so to speak. Right? It has to go somewhere about. Of course, we try to measure the effects on the business outcome, the effects a CIO is delivering his or her organization in terms of that operations, even maybe the change of an operating model and the business models and the underlying organization models, etc. So we use also with BCG a kind of a digital maturity assessment we conducted for over 20 years ago, and it gives great insights. And we constantly move up the ladder again in terms of, for example, this year we blended also the relevance of AI, for an example, in that perspective, and how you can measure that, and what is the outcome there. And yes, we also have that for VTens also, of course, but I'm not allowed to share that before we go live with the evening itself. We do a lot of leadership archetypes in terms of job fulfillment matrix, or although the big 5 assessments, we constantly want to know who's rule. All elements we use. We do a community view, so also the board members of CEO Platform Netherlands are giving their view. We do a peer-to-peer review with a couple of important CEO peers, and we do, of course, a stakeholder management view with a jury meeting. And that gives, in the end, a lot of information, and we try to, with a kind of a weight factors and a mixture, in the end we'll say, this is it. This is him or her, so to speak. So then you have at least know a little bit more about the award. Intensive, I guess?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the results.
Of the jury?
No, of all the content that has been created. It's an enormous check-up on all these aspects. So I'd like to unpack that whole gift and see what we can learn. Yeah.
Right. So why is it as important, Ronald, as out of the context also of CEO Platform Netherlands? Why do we go this in length and in depth about these kind of?
Well, I think to present somebody with such an honorary place amongst the community, it is very important to have some background or foundation to that decision. So somebody can really shine. It is not something that's pulled out of the hat at random, but it's somebody, if it be you or one of the other candidates. I do not have that information. I'm not on the jury. But to have a standing among peers, it's very important that has foundation and it can be recognized and pointed to why this person has received this honor. And then following up from that, we can perhaps share some of the experiences that have led to that occasion coming through the next couple of months in several sessions there where they elaborate a little bit further on how they got to be where they are at.
Yep. So we've seen that the shift is really into the how game, right? So share those best practices among each other and maybe even co-create. So your vision on that to finalize that, Wagner, do we really go into that co-creation demand also? That's the next steps.
Yeah, so I think servant lead but no servant technology, I would say, and that means that alignment needs to be taking place in and outside of your organization. And I think V10 is a perfect example, which consists of an ecosystem in itself. That if you don't play that role or you don't play your part in that value chain, we will probably be in big problems somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Anything to add on that, Simon?
I mean, I just think we need role models as well. We need to look at people that understand how to navigate the future, because today it's probably more difficult than it's ever been. So for me, actually, it's more than just looking at the past. It's about helping start to create something that really does, I think, help generate support and I think a vision ultimately for the future.
Right. Matthijs, do you want to share with your colleagues your pearls of wisdom in 30 seconds? What should they do or don't do?
Oh, definitely.
They're going to watch you now, right?
Oh, yeah. But now you have to watch closely. The best thing you can do as a CIO is become the best possible peer for your colleagues, because you do this together. And what I found, sometimes you do it with the whole group of your peers. What I found to be very useful, and we started this year, is team up with your colleague, with their department, and make a combined story. So V10 had a lot of directors. We have 10 directors. So I have 9 stories with my colleagues where we have combined goals. And that is a wisdom that Louis van Gaal gave us. A goal creates a team. So if you want to team up with your buddy, make sure you have a one-pager with the combined goals of your both departments. Make an approach of how to go about, and then either it's fully AI, completely out of the box, innovative, or it is standard but very thorough when it needs to be secure. Both things can happen, but team up.
Right. Let's team up. We can find it back in the tagline of CEO Day 2025. That means, do I have to announce something? Well, if I need to announce, November 25, the 21st edition of the CEO Day, and it's getting bigger, better, and bolder any year, I guess. So looking forward to also the pitches of the 4 nominees. So good luck, and don't be nervous. In the end, it's just having also fun with your buddies, right?
That's it.
That's it. May I thank everybody for the contribution for today, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Later.
My digital identity, it's smart, seamless, secure, gives me access to the things I need and nothing more. It watches out for me, protects me from growing threats. It gives me the freedom to do my thing securely without ever being held back. My identity lives on the Identity Cloud, the foundation of my business's security. The planet's #1 converged identity platform. Simple, cloud native, intelligent, championed by partners, recognized by analysts, loved by users, trusted by security teams globally. The Identity Cloud is designed to power and protect the entire world at work. Me, thousands of colleagues and contractors, millions of applications, and billions of machines. It gives you unmatched insight and control, enhancing your defenses against cyber risks. and empowering your global workforce with just-in-time, just enough access to digital tools to excel in their work. What could the Identity Cloud do for you and your business? Savient, the Identity Cloud.
Lenovo's framework of hybrid AI solutions will break the barriers to ROI across personal, enterprise, and public AI environments. With a curated library of AI use case accelerators, tested and proven at scale, powered by Lenovo's full-stack hybrid AI portfolio.
Lenovo.